Welcome to the Her Podcast. I'm Megan.
I'm CJ.
And I'm Erica.
We are exploring purpose and connection in business and life through our very own honest everyday ramblings.
We are so excited to welcome Ashlee Piper to the podcast today. Ashlee is a full-time teacher, content creator, wife, and mother here in Saskatoon. She truly does it all. Ashlee is passionate about sharing authentically, supporting women, and creating a space of self-love and body positivity. We are so excited to chat with you, Ashlee. Thanks for being here today. When did you start doing social media?
I think it was about 3 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. It would have been 3 years in May. I think it was.
Okay, but you started because I met you for the first time at Meredith's workshops.
When I started doing my social media, I took Meredith's workshop for my small business because I used to have like a baby and toddler clothing line that I sewed.
Really?
That's amazing.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Were you selling
called?
like all sorts of things?
Yeah, I did like accessories. I started with bandana bibs because Hunter was so drooly. So I had never sewn a day in my life. And then when I had Hunter, he was like, it was insane. In like a half an hour, he would have like drool down to his waist.
My oldest niece was like that. She always had a bib on.
Yeah. So I started sewing those, and then I started sewing shoes, and I started sewing clothes, and yeah. So then I took Meredith's workshop for that because I was trying to like figure out social media for my business. And then I felt I feel like I've always had lots of different like sides of me and lots of different passions. And I loved makeup, and I loved fashion, and I loved hair, and I loved this, and I loved that. And when I took the workshop, I was like, I feel like I could like take all of these things and like do my social media with intention. So after that, I kind of didn't use it at all for my business. And
I was going to say, I feel like I remember meeting you and you were like, little bips. And I was like, okay. And then all of a sudden.
Pips? Mm-hmm. That was you?
No, little bips.
Little Pips.
Little Pips.
Oh my God. Because your last name's Piper. I thought it was little bips because of like bibs.
Erica just clued in.
I did not know.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry. What happened to the business? Why did you decide?
So
Baby
it was like
bibs
one of
is
those
not it.
things that like it was a lot of work. Right.
Yeah.
So
Sewing is no joke.
No.
Seriously.
And you taught yourself to sew.
Yeah.
You were like, I'm going to make these bibs.
Or did your mom teach you?
No,
Or, like,
my
you
mom
taught
doesn't know
yourself.
how to-
Yeah, okay.
My mom and dad don't know how to. Well, like my dad could like sew a hole in a shirt or something, but I got a sewing machine from my grandma. It was her old sewing machine.
Yeah.
So I had that, and then when I think to like the first things that I sold to people, like now I'm like,
Me too, girl.
oh my gosh, like I cannot believe that I had customers.
You're like, the quality control was severely different.
Because I legitimately taught myself everything. So like when it came to like stretch stitches or like anything like that, like I had no idea. So like when I first started sewing like leggings, I wouldn't have used a stretch stitch because I didn't know. So people would have been like putting clothes on their babies and the stitches just like ripping. Right. And then I was like, I put something on my baby and it ripped. I'm like, oh, this is not good.
I sold that.
And I sold it. And no one's saying anything because it's all friends and family right now.
Putting out a PSA apology.
Yeah. So
That's sorry and thank you
to all of
Thank
my
you.
first customers.
Seriously, thank you.
So then you kind of let little Pips. No,
Yeah, it just
I don't want to
became
say
too
die,
much.
but
I
like
did.
you're
I
like
closed shop.
You were
shop.
like, I'm done.
It became a thing that like, again, so like I'm a full-time teacher.
Yes.
And it started as like a hobby when I had my babies at home. When I was on maternity leave, it gave me like something to do. It gave me like an outlet. And then I was back to teaching and had kids and a husband, and it was too much.
Yeah.
Because I was working all day. I would do the mom thing. My kids would go to sleep. My husband would go to sleep. And I would be downstairs sewing for 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
Every night.
That's wild.
yeah, it became a thing. I either had to source things out and like hire people.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a clue what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
Or I had to like scale back.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to just like slowly scale back. So I just kind of like stopped.
Look at, she's wearing a little Pips scrunchie.
Oh, you did scrunchies too? Okay, so you started with bibs. Then you did...
Then I did, so bibs. Then I did like infinity scarves
Yeah.
for like babies. And then I did like mommy and me sets.
Cute.
And then I did like leather, what the hell are they called? Shoes.
Oh, like little baby moccasins.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. Okay, I get
sorry,
it.
I keep coming back to this, but I'm just like, what?
And
know,
then I
it's
had
fun.
like
I remember it.
pants and
Yeah.
bunny hugs and
Oh my gosh. You went from like, I don't know how to sew, and you had like a whole apparel line.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you still sew even though you don't have the company anymore?
Only if I have to.
Okay.
Like I'll fix things for the family
Right.
or my kids are like too big now. So
Yeah.
it's not like I'm making them a bunch of stuff anymore. But like, you know, when it was like Nova's birthday, when I might make her something to wear with like the theme
Right.
that we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know
I'm also
what?
like I was becoming that mom that I was like everything they were wearing was like Lil Pips.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, oh my God, everything. They're gonna like grow up and be like, my mom made me everything.
We couldn't buy any clothes.
I thought it was so cool. I'm like, oh my God, it's the best. And they're like,
Please, can you just take me to Walmart? I just want a Pac-Man shirt, Mom.
Yeah. Okay, so you took this course with Meredith.
Yeah.
And you like learned a little bit more about, I don't know, just like social media in general, like what you could do with it. And so what was the thing for you that you were like, I'm going to actually start doing more like lifestyle content?
So I have always had like body image struggles, we'll say. Like growing up, I was always super confident, but I was always very aware that like I was the biggest girl in the room or I was the biggest girl in the friend group or like things like that, right? So I was kind of in a point of my life that I was still, and I didn't recognize it at the time, but I was still in like disordered eating habits and exercising to lose weight, not to feel good. And looking back at it now, like I'm thankful because it's like where I started everything. But I definitely was like still like fully immersed in like diet culture.
Right.
But my very like first post that I made that like turned me into like, this is like what I want to do is I went to do a Transformation Tuesday photo because that's like what everyone does when they're showing that they're losing weight. Right. And it was Wednesday and I was like, fuck, I missed the day. Like Tuesday was yesterday. What am I going to do? And that was where my like Worthy Wednesday
Oh, I love that.
was made.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah. Because then I was like, okay, well, you know, I could just do this, like, here I was, here I am now. But I was still like dealing with body image things, even though I was smaller than I am now, but I had this like belly that I wasn't used to. I had this skin that I wasn't used to from having my kids. And that's like what I showed off that day. Like I was, you know, here's me in my high rise leggings all tight and good, and then here's me like pulled down and both sides of me are good and everything is, you know, not attached to just this part of me. And that was my first Worthy Wednesday post. And maybe it was 4 years ago.
So do you feel like when you made that post, was that like a spark for you? Was that like, wait a second, I've tapped into something? Like, how did that make you feel? What was the response from your audience and your family?
From women was like, me too. Thank you. Like that was, you know, thank you for your vulnerability. I feel the same way.
How did you feel? Because that's extremely vulnerable. And that was the first time you had done it. How did you feel when you're like, I'm going to do this? Did you second guess yourself? Did you write the caption and erase it? Did you hit post and delete. Like, how did you feel as you were doing it, and how did you feel after?
I wanted to barf.
Yeah.
Like, I remember like sweating. I had it sitting there and being like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Do it. Don't do it. Do it. Don't. Right. And like, yeah, I sat on it. I sat on it like all day long. And I felt like my heart was like racing and I wanted to vomit. And I was like, all the like negative things, right? This is, you're disgusting. Like, why would you show this to somebody? Why would you, these are like the things you've been hiding your whole life. Why would you all of a sudden put it out to social media?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, at the time I didn't have the following that I do now, right? So it didn't seem as big of a deal, but I didn't understand, right? Yeah. It was even just like my friends and family.
I was going to say, would that make it even harder?
Yeah.
To be so vulnerable to people that you like really know and are in your community?
Yeah. So leading up to like doing the post, it was like
hard.
Yeah. I was like so nervous. But then after I posted it, I remember like posting it and just like putting my phone down and being like, oh my God. And then like picking my phone up and like, should I delete it? Like, and then putting it down and being like, nope. We're good. Like, just chill. And then getting the responses from people and getting like the comments and, and it was just like, there was so many people, so many women that related to it like right away. And I was just like, oh my God.
And there's something so powerful about sharing your own experiences that really help others move through theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're that person for a lot of people.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I wonder too, when you go to post something so different, like I wonder how your friends and family reacted. Because I think we've talked about this before. Like, people get so uncomfortable when you step out of who they've defined you as, when they've defined you as something, and then you step out of it. People are uncomfortable and they sometimes retreat, or we've talked about like the most supportive people often aren't, right? Our friends and family are sometimes the people who unfollow us and who are like not engaging with us. So was that anything for you, or do you feel like your family was like, heck yes, do this, Ashlee? Or what was that response like?
I mean, I think like both. So I think there's people that were like, well, yeah, I'd expect that from her because that's her, right? Like even if I had struggles inside, I didn't really let those out. So I always exuded confidence. I always had this personality that was outgoing, that was, put me in the spotlight. I'm very okay with it. So I think that there was people in my, circle that would be like, this is exactly what we would expect. But also those same people would be like, but I don't get it. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you saying that? Why are you posting that?
Something really interesting that I've learned is when people react to you in that kind of way, it's like, what about what I'm saying makes you uncomfortable? What's going on in here inside you that's bringing up? Because it's a them thing, right? So what are you seeing about yourself?
It's a mirror. They're looking in a mirror.
And we don't think about that internally a lot. It's just like, oh, why'd she do that? I don't like that. Or like, look at her, blah, blah, blah. But it's just like, if we turned around and went internal, it's like, why do I feel uncomfortable right now? Yeah. And got curious, I think we'd really figure out a lot about ourselves too.
And also, like, you don't have to like it.
Totally.
Like, I don't like everything that I come across.
Yeah.
I don't like every person on social media. I don't relate with every person, and that's okay.
Yeah. Not
everybody is going to be like, oh, I'm so inspired,
yeah,
or I relate so much to this. But that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, you don't have to like it, but I mean,
it's nice when people do.
It is. But also support it, right? Like, regardless if you like it or not, you can support the people that you love.
Yeah. And we won't always like everything even our best friends put out. Like, sometimes we'll be like, well, that wasn't for me. And that's okay. I think we are growing up in this space where we feel that we have to love and accept and, what's the word I'm looking for here, but like everything about everybody. And it's like, I can actually love you and not agree with you on this.
Totally.
Or, like I wouldn't post myself in lingerie because that's not for me, But I watch you and I'm like, great, that's who you are. And I love you for it. And I love that you're like, so it's like we can be different and still be good friends.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, and you cannot agree or like things about people, but you can also always just choose to be kind.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Can we get
that's the
snaps for
wrap
that?
up of this podcast.
And be a kind human.
That's it. Just be kind.
That's it.
And
That's all we
sometimes-
ask.
Well, and sometimes being kind is just like not saying anything.
Well, if
Yeah.
you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at
freaking
all.
say it.
I said
Thank
that
you,
to my kid
parents.
the other day because they said something not nice to me. I was like, no.
Here's my thing too, is like, I love like having friendships that you don't agree with everything and you can have conversations about it.
Yes.
Does that not make you a
love
better
it
person?
so much. I don't want my circle to all be like me. I don't want everyone to think like me, to feel like me, to look like me. I want to be challenged. I want people to be like, are you sure that
There's
this
beauty
is
in diversity.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. And authenticity in conversations instead of just agreeing or being like, yeah, well, she likes it, so I like it. Like, that's such middle school energy. And I feel like, let's just get rid of that.
And to think that there's one path, like there's one path to this outcome,
Yeah.
is just so close-minded.
Yep.
There is so many different like ways to do things. There are so many different. I think being challenged is so important for personal growth, and so it's strange to me when people think like, oh, somebody challenged my thoughts or they don't agree with me, so they're not my person.
Defensive.
And it's like, no, like lean into that and have a conversation.
Well, people don't want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
People don't want to be uncomfortable. And when they don't want to be challenged, it's because I think sometimes people aren't sure of themselves.
Totally.
Because we're very similar this way that I'm like, I'm cool if you challenge me because I know who I am and I know like what I'm about. So it doesn't really, I know you and I were talking about this the one day. I was like, I'm cool if you want to talk to me about something because I know what I believe and like I'm open to conversation. But I feel like when people don't want that, it's because maybe even they're like,
They're not sure.
they're not sure.
And it's
Or
okay
they're
to
not
be not
confident.
sure.
And it's definitely okay to not be sure. Absolutely.
It's okay to be not sure if you're willing to figure it out
Yeah.
with kindness and respect.
Yeah.
Right? And just get curious. Not enough people, I feel like, are willing to get curious because it's so uncomfortable and vulnerable.
So then I want to ask, because I was thinking about this and I remember you posted a photo, like I think you were butt naked in your mirror. It was like a side profile.
I had a.
I thought you were naked.
Oh, I had a pair of underwear on, but it's definitely the illusion. Of
Yeah, it
butt
was
naked.
like butt naked vibe.
I definitely have another butt
And
naked one.
my initial thought was, oh, is that going to impact her career as a teacher? And not that I was sitting there thinking you shouldn't do that, but I was like, oh, is that going to be?
What does that look like?
That look like as an educator? And I'd love you to like speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so I get that question a lot. I talk often about being a teacher, but I don't talk often about my job as a teacher. I think just out of respect of the youth that I work with and just the privacy of that's important. And I also just think like that part of me is just so different from this part of me. So I do try to keep them separate. Without it being a secret. And yeah, I did shit my pants with that too. Like I was just like, I don't know. Like,
Because I mean, like, again, we're in this world where a lot more is being allowed, but then there's certain things you look at and you're like, well, I feel like that would be an easy way for someone to be like, sorry, you either have to stop doing this or you can't be a teacher anymore because you deal with students.
Have you had any pushback from parents or coworkers or anything like that?
I have not.
Amazing.
Again,
Are you okay to speak to like the style of school you work in? Because I
Yeah,
think
I was
you don't
gonna
have to
say,
say
like-
where, but if you could explain maybe for the audience, like what the situation is, because I know that leads into your next answer.
I don't deal with a lot of parents.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was not a concern for me.
Got it.
I keep an eye on, who's following me, and I don't accept student interaction.
Okay. I was going to say, you're a public profile.
I am.
But you can
Yeah.
still,
Yeah.
can remove followers.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if it is a student who's no longer a student that finds my profile, and I also feel like what I'm putting out is something that they should hear.
Absolutely.
So, I haven't had a lot of pushback. And I think that it speaks volumes to the organization that I work for, that they are very progressive. They are very considerate of just kind of.
I think they're real.
Yeah,
like they're very real to the program you're working with.
Yeah,
isn't like a traditional school, so I feel like even in that sense, just from what I've heard from you, there's more openness to being like, hey, this isn't how things happen here. And so even our teachers might be unique in the way they're doing life.
My message, I talk about that a lot in my classroom. Like we open our day with a sharing circle, and I often share about worth and about the importance of being authentically you. And
That's so important.
When we go swimming as a group, we talk about body image and going swimming and how we might see different bodies, whether it's different abilities, different sizes, different colors, different scars, different anything. We talk about that before we go, because my students may not have been around a lot of that. They might not have had experiences with that, and they might be experiencing it themselves. So I bring a lot of like what I do on my social media into my classroom. Obviously it's dressed differently, right? You're not like,
Here I am.
yeah. But
Because you still need
those are your
respect and you
values.
still
Yeah.
need to,
yeah, and I think it's important for all of my youth to hear, and all of everyone to hear.
Yeah. Well, and that's cool because you said before, you know, what I do on social media, and like I keep them very separate, but like what you've really just painted is a bridge. Like really, obviously you're not like sharing your students or sharing, you know, the odd time you'll talk about school, like, hey, we're moving buildings or whatever, but you're living out what you're doing on social media, which I think is really cool. Cause I think there's some people who don't do that. And so I commend you for that. Cause that's really awesome.
Thank you.
And how long have you been a teacher?
12 years.
Oh my God.
I think. I always starts to blur. Always like 12 to 14 years, somewhere in there.
Ish.
Yeah.
It's almost 15.
I've been with that same school for that long.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's really impactful.
That's crazy. Yeah, I know you've had quite the
I opened
experience.
up the classroom
You did.
when it opened. Yeah.
Wow.
My very first classroom was a garage.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The first day of school was like, okay, grab the lawnmower. Let's get it out of here so we can turn this into a classroom.
Oh my god.
And you were just like, this is for me.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I loved
Sign
it.
me
So
up.
when you were in education, because did you graduate here? Okay, so you were in like traditional education, U of S program.
Yeah.
Were you like, I want to go do something different in this teaching sector, or did this kind of fall into your lap?
I always had something alternative in my head. I didn't really see myself in a community school in a mainstream setting.
But yet you were drawn to education.
Yes. I honestly, like, I cannot think of a time, even as like a child, that I didn't say I always wanted to be a teacher. But I didn't really know what it would look like.
Yeah.
And I think just like where I grew up, like I grew up in Prince Albert, and shut up.
Okay, let's give her a moment to explain. I was going to be such a wiener and be like, boo.
That's like the moose straw vagina battle.
I knew you'd laugh, but I was like, there might be people who are like, they don't know me, so they'll be like,
We just lost
You know,
all
we have it in every province.
We're used to
It's
it.
okay.
We're
every
used to
province
it.
has that. Like,
Listen, there's like
Go Calgary.
75% of people from Prince Albert that would be like, boo. And then the other 25% of us are like, we love PA and it was a great place to grow up.
no, I'm totally teasing. PSA, I think PA is cool.
But what about growing up in PA made you say, like, I want to be a teacher, but I want to do it differently?
Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, oh, God.
Because
Where do I start?
I mean, Prince Albert
like,
has a bit of a reputation for being a little bit more rough. Fair or not, that's
Yeah.
what the reputation is.
and I would say that is deeply rooted in racism.
Yes, absolutely.
And I grew up deeply rooted in racism.
Okay.
It's all around everyone in PA, whether you're white or not.
It's woven into the culture.
Yeah, yeah. And so even going to school, I can remember in like junior high, there were a couple of classrooms in our school that I knew were different, but I didn't really get it. Right now, I'm like very aware that those were programs that were for like at-risk youth.
Yes.
But at the time, here I am, like little blonde white girl,
Privileged.
So ignorant to anything that is outside of like the norm.
Yep.
Right? Like to me, it was like you have a family with a mom, a dad, maybe siblings in a house, and your parents go to work. They come home at night. They take care of you. They come to your sports, you know.
You get to play sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for a lot of families, it doesn't look that way.
And I had no idea. Yeah. Right? But I also didn't I think of going into school, and I was friends with a lot of the students that were in this class. It was the class, like I can still remember it. It was 8-6 because we had different like classrooms. So like we had like 8-1, 8-2, 8-3, right? And 8-6 was this class that was just like everyone knew like 8-6 was like, oh gosh, right? But for me, I was like 8-6, like there's some of my friends in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like there's this, I don't know.
So for you, that was the
where
class
did
they
they
were
live?
in.
I don't know.
Right.
Never been to their house, but like we hang out.
Yeah.
Right. And then as I got older, I mean, again, with that being said, I was very aware that there were things around that were like not great. Racism is deeply rooted and biases are heavy.
Yeah.
So I always felt like I saw more in everyone. And I asked questions of everything that I saw. So whether it was just like somebody walking down the street that maybe this person might have like crossed the street when they went, I'd be like, what?
Why?
You know, why?
How observant as a child, right?
So I think I questioned a lot of those things from like a young age, and then growing up, I continued to question them. And I continued to think like, well, there's a reason for this. We need to change it. So how can I be part of that? With that being said, like, I'm also very aware, again, I'm a white, middle-aged, very privileged. I don't think that I'm this like white savior who can change the world.
Hey, Erica.
Hey, what?
What have you done lately to care for your mental health?
Oh my gosh, nothing. I'm the worst.
Well then, friend, I've got you. You need to check out Neoma Wellness. This resource, you guys, is a wellness brand that advocates for overall wellness in all areas of your life. The amazing thing is Neoma doesn't just hyper-focus on one area of well-being. The owner is really aware of making sure you have a well-rounded approach to all things health and wellness. Not only can you access these resources on a day-to-day basis, Neoma is actually putting on their second Evoke retreat. Their first retreat sold out so fast, you guys. So now they've decided to do a second one. We're here to tell you to save the date. The next wellness retreat, Evoke, will be on September 20th to 22nd, 2023. Erica and I are headed to the first one, and we're so excited. We genuinely think you guys are not going to want to miss out on this next one. You can go follow at Neoma Wellness on socials and check out neomawellness.com. Make sure to turn on your notifications and save the date so you don't miss out on this amazing experience. Details will also be linked in our show notes. Again, that's at NEOMA Wellness.
But I challenged opinions of my friends. I challenged opinions of my family. I had those conversations.
That's where it starts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I moved to Saskatoon, I was offered an opportunity to work in one of the group homes that was opening here in Saskatoon. It had started in Prince Albert, and they were in like the beginning stages of opening up a home in Saskatoon. At the time, I was working for, I think, the health region, and I worked in the linen department. It was,
Folding towels.
and like splitting like the sheets from the hospital beds and sorting the dirty linen. And not the static.
Static. Like blood and poop.
Yeah. Skin. I'm like,
Okay. That.
So worst job
Yeah.
you've had.
yeah,
Humbling.
yeah.
Humbling.
I mean, it
Yeah.
needs to be done. No offense to anybody
Yeah.
that like.
Thank you for whoever does
No,
it.
Yeah.
literally,
It has to be done.
nurses, people in those positions,
Yeah.
people who work in care, all of that. I'm like, you were gifted to us
Oh, yeah.
because you felt a calling on your life, and literally
you.
thank you for that.
Lennon
Yeah.
Department
Lennon
of the
Department.
Sask Health Region.
Thank you.
We
Yeah.
thank you today.
Specific shout out
Shout
to
out.
you. Angels.
Angels.
So I applied to this job not having a clue what it was because again, I grew up like I didn't even know that families lived in apartments.
What's a
growing
group
up,
home?
right? So
right.
what was a group home? I had no idea. I mean, I had an idea now as an adult, but I wasn't fully aware of like
Yeah.
anything. And I started working there like a week later, and
Were you like,
yeah. But also I was like, I felt like at home in my job, and it felt
Something
like
clicked for
Yeah.
you, and you were like, "Here it is."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I continued to go through university while I was working there. And then when I convocated in May of whatever year that was, 12 to 14 years ago, we were accredited for a school that following August. So then
From the program that you were working with, then it branched out into school. Amazing. Okay, so you were in the group home atmosphere, and then you helped build that school from there.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like a little bit impressive.
It actually is. Very.
I honestly got chills because how
that's amazing.
impactful and how powerful and how beautiful to be able to be a part of something from as it changes and grows and expands.
Well, and that's why I shared about getting the building.
Yeah.
Yes, you moved.
Yeah,
Your building
when we
moved.
moved our building. And for some people, it's like, oh, great. And I mean, a lot of people don't understand at all, right?
Yeah.
Because when they think of a school, they think of like this giant
school, a
school
building.
with, yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, like I said, my first school was a garage, a garage at one of the homes. And then this is like, I think it's my 7th place since being with them. So like, it was a huge deal. And it was a huge deal for my students.
Yes.
Like as much as I was excited for me, I was so excited for my students because they get to now come to a building that like is
theirs.
fresh. It's new. It is theirs. It looks like a school.
Yeah.
There's no torn carpet. There's no holes. There's no, it is a school.
Well, that's got to instill like confidence.
Yes.
Right?
Well, I was just going to say, if and it's not the same, and I hope this doesn't come across this way, but if we can relate to how we feel when we walk into a beautiful space and we immediately feel elevated or like special,
higher.
ooh, right? When you go somewhere that doesn't feel nice, you end up being like kind of distracted by the fact that it doesn't feel nice.
Well,
so what a great gift
It
for your students.
unconsciously evokes emotion in you. Wherever you are, however you're, how they always say, like, dress for how you want to feel. It's the same kind of idea. Like, your environment impacts you so greatly.
That feeling of worth.
Yes.
Then I always
It
go back
all
to
ties
like when you
back.
walk in, if you have an office that you walk in and there's no windows and it's dank and it's dreary and you have this like old desk that's like rickety,
Yeah.
how do you feel in your job? Do you feel like you are worth more? Do you feel like you are appreciated? Do you feel no? But you walk into a place that is bright and happy and here's your new desk and
That's
we got you
amazing.
your stuff. And so we fought for this building. We pushed and we pushed and we pushed. And I have a director who's absolutely incredible. And she worked day in and day night, or day in and
Day out.
day out. Oh, I was like, wait a minute, what is that saying?
She worked a lot.
She worked tirelessly to figure out how to make it work. And so did the founders of the organization. So
So do you have traditional roles in this school, like a principal and vice principal?
I am like a principal teacher. And so is my like colleague that's also, we have 2 classrooms in the school. So we both like play a principal teacher role.
So are you teaching multiple grades at once?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's a
Yeah.
like a
I've had as young as
shared
8.
classroom.
It's a multi-level,
Thank you. There,
grade.
there we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's there's something to be said about that environment too.
That's like how
Tell us
people
about
used to
that.
do things.
Yeah.
Like back in the olden days, everyone,
Yeah.
I mean, they were all in like one classroom, right? When you think about
But
how schools started.
This is obviously completely different, but my son is in a Montessori program. So it is different ages in the same classroom for a certain amount of years, right? Like, so he's been in the same classroom since he started and now he'll move to a different classroom. So there's something to be said about the younger children and the older children working together. Do you see that as they're older as well?
Yeah.
Like, what are the benefits?
Well, I think sometimes yes and sometimes no.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have, older kids that they want nothing but to like be away from the younger kids, which I get.
Totally.
But then we
I
also
want to be
have,
away from little kids most of the time.
You have 3 of them.
I have 3 of them.
Leave me alone. We get it.
But we also have some older kids that like then they take on like that almost like a sibling, like
Big brother, big sister
Which is
role.
so special.
which is really sweet. I mean, we have a whole array of opportunity and yeah.
I think that's so cool. There's a question I want to ask to kind of bring it back to the worth. So when you started doing your Worthy Wednesday posts, you were really rooted in like feeling worthy in your body. How has that changed as you've kept going? Because you were just speaking about feeling worthy in the classroom. So how do you feel like that has expanded and grown for you since you started doing Worthy Wednesdays to like where you are now in your career and your creator journey?
Yeah.
And a mother.
Yeah.
As a mother.
So I would say when I first started doing Worthy Wednesdays, I tied a lot of my worth to my body. Yeah. So it was a lot about, again, like I talked about how it was like I was worthy in my leggings that were up high, or I was worthy with my like loose skin hanging out. And I still agree with that.
Yeah.
But I think my mindset shifted from like, my worth isn't attached to my body.
Yeah.
So I think that shift just happened over the years and just me doing work, personal development.
Yeah.
Doing just research and reading and following other creators who share that message and finding the other things that I think are important for people to focus on. And for myself to focus on. I often got the question, like, how do you become so confident? How do you this? And I didn't have that answer because I'm like, again, I always had confidence. So no matter what, I always had it. And I think when my confidence was the worst was when I was the thinnest I ever was.
Yeah.
And it was because my worth was so focused on my body. And once I like stopped having that as like the tie to worth, everything changed.
Yeah.
Everything. My mindset, my growth as a creator, as a wife and as a mom, as a teacher, all of it, because then I was able to share a different message. Because when I first started, like I still believe in where I was when I started. I still believe that it came from a really authentic place. But now I've learned so much and I've grown so much, and I don't have the same mentality as I did 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's taken work to get there.
Yeah.
So I think the worth aspect of it just shifted in my brain as I did just inner work.
Well, and I'm curious because, so you've now mentioned it again, this inner work. So my question is, because you've now said it twice, you said I've done the work. I'm really curious on what avenue of, I'm going to put air quotes, like doing the work, have you found to be the most beneficial to you? Like, are you doing, like you said, you're reading, or are you like, no, there's this podcast or this specific creator, or I like to meditate and I like to journal. Like, I'm just curious on what you would say is like, that was super beneficial to me in the growth of my mindset.
Can I add that? Self-care. You're so like good about your self-care, and you know what works for you for self-care too. And so I just want to like add that on as I think that, how did you figure that out as well? Because I think they're tied together.
Yeah. So I think where I first started the inner work was just like challenging the dialogue. So I think I did that to the dialogue that was fed to me. So I changed the people that I followed. I used to follow so many like fitness pages, healthy eating, right?
Air quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many different like weight loss programs. I had so many Pinterest boards that were like these exercises, those exercises, these healthy things, those lose 5 pounds here, lose this.
Yeah.
So I changed that.
How hard was it for you to do that?
Well, hard because it's shoved down our throat and it has to be like a daily conscious effort to like
remove.
not have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But alongside of that, I changed like my inner dialogue. So, you know, I used to walk by a mirror and be like, ugh,
Yeah.
on days that
Didn't
I
feel
felt
good.
ugh. And I mean, I still have those days. Right. And I think that like, that's where I don't want people to get it twisted.
I was going to say, I feel like people like look to accounts like yours and you must be held in this standard that as soon as you get on and you talk about possibly feeling, I don't feel good today, I could imagine that you would have people who are like, oh, but you're supposed to be body positivity. And it's like, yeah, I'm still a woman and a human.
Yeah.
But
Well, I
I
used to
think
get-
that's your authenticity. Like,
Yes.
your authenticity shines so brightly. And I really think that you do a really good job of sharing as you feel like you want to be sharing and comfortable and saying like, I feel like this today, but like I'm still worthy or whatever. Right. So I think that, do you feel like that also helped you hold yourself accountable to those, that inner work?
But I also think like I've always said this, like I don't know how to not be me.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
I mean, like I'm like holding in like swears and stuff. I'm trying to work
You
on
can
that.
I swear all the time.
We're both trying not to say like, which is why every once in a while we all of a sudden look
Look uncomfortable.
like, what other words are
take
there?
a pause.
What word can I say besides like?
There's nothing, just a pause. But I don't know how to not be me. I don't know how to like dull my shine. I don't, and I don't want to, right? So
Please don't.
Yeah. I
Yes,
think
sister.
that I've worked on my inner dialogue to challenge those thoughts that I have, but also knowing that I still have those thoughts.
Yeah.
So I still have, you know, days where I walk past the mirror butt naked and go like, oh, fuck. Right. And then what I've had to do is stop myself from continuing those thoughts on any further. Why are you having that thought? Because yesterday you walked by the mirror and you were like, damn girl, you look good.
Yeah.
Right. So what changed from yesterday to today? Why are you feeling that way? Why are you talking to yourself like that?
Getting curious.
Yeah. And challenging the
taking
thoughts when
note.
they're like that. Yeah.
Right?
And
Like
just
when it
being
comes
aware
up.
of it. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Well, and that's interesting because I think we listened to a podcast by Ed Milet and he talks about this and he talks about like there's actually a part of your brain
Yeah.
that you actually have to rewire.
Yeah.
You have because you have
Like the
this
amygdala.
Yeah, you have this like emotional home that you like to sit in and you CJ's like it's the frontal cortex.
Watch me be wrong, guys. I'm so sorry. I also call things like inappropriate, like complete opposite of what they should be.
Are we going to
There's
talk
a good
about how
chance.
you don't know what the body parts are?
Seriously. Actually, that's
continuing
that's
down
why-
that path.
That's why we brought Ashley here today. Have a little
Ashley,
know
can
your
you
body
please
conversation.
Walk me through all the body parts.
But it's that like retraining your
Yes,
brain.
you have to retrain your brain. And I know he speaks to it and he says you have to not just necessarily bury those thoughts and be like, not going to think about that, but you have to acknowledge it and then find that thing that's
Conscious change.
switches it. Because otherwise, we never can really ignore things.
No.
We can't really be like, oh no, that's just it
No.
will always be in the back of your head.
No.
Yeah.
So that's
But let
interesting
it
that
be
you
a
speak to
learning
that.
opportunity, right? Like it flicks on and you're like, hey, wait, I don't want to say that to myself. I want to continue down a different path.
Yeah. And it also allows us to learn other sides of ourselves, right? There's a reason that you're feeling that way. Check in with your mental health. What's going on? Check in with your stress levels. What's going on? Is your plate overflowing? Do you have something else going on? Is there trouble in, or like a concern in your relationship right now? Have you had a fight with a friend or with a family member? Is there something else? Because there's a reason why you're having that thought.
Triggers can show up in really weird ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can challenge that and then you can change it. Right. And if it's because you're so used to all these external dialogues that are coming into you, then you can change that.
Yeah.
If it's because you feel like shit because you haven't moved your body all week and you usually do, and you're able to like recognize like, holy shit, I haven't been active and it's having an effect on my mental health. I'm not fatter, or I'm not disgusting, or I'm not because I haven't moved in a week, because that doesn't happen. That's not possible.
Yeah.
But I'm obviously not okay up here for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or again, like I have a meeting tomorrow that I've been stressing about all week. Obviously, I'm not doing well from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, again, people get so caught up on like, you cannot have these thoughts. And if you are confident, or if you are, like rooted in self-love, you cannot have those thoughts. And that is just not realistic. You're going to have those thoughts.
You almost have to have
Yeah.
acceptance and open hands.
Yeah. It's what you do with those thoughts when you, like you said, you acknowledge them.
And you be gentle with yourself.
Yeah,
And you
lots of
figure
grace.
out, and then you use self-care to
Tell
get
us
by
about
it.
self-care.
To
What are your
support it.
top 3 to 5 things that are like Ashlee's must-dos?
Well, if you follow her on Instagram,
bath.
I know.
She's,
Oh, yeah, well,
she's a
I'm
bather.
well aware.
Yeah, and I'm always like, what you got in that bath today, girl?
Yeah, definitely.
She needs a bath sponsorship.
I know, right?
Right? Like all the bath products.
Yes.
Yeah, I am a like 45 minutes in the bath every night kind of girl.
Question about that. Do you keep adding hot water to it, or you just, you know what I used to do? I would fill a kettle with boiling water, and then like I would just add it in, because I want to be in a hot bath, like scalding.
So I am
You're ridiculous. Just a hot tip.
I'm picturing my kettle that plugs in, and I'm like, would I electrocute myself?
No, well, you unplug
You
it.
like preheat
Yeah.
it and bring it to the bath.
Yeah.
I feel like if anyone were going to electrocute themselves, it would be me.
You don't do that.
Erica,
You
here's
don't.
this tip, and then she brings the whole thing. And it's like, no, like just the kettle, not the base. Just plug
I need
it
to
in.
keep the kettle warm,
in beside the
but I need to keep the kettle hot.
It'll stay hot
still
there
be
for a
hot.
while.
You'll be good.
One time my brother-in-law put like the kettles you plug in, and
Yeah.
he thought it was a real kettle, so he put it on the stove.
No.
Did it melt?
Oh my god.
He wrecked it. Oh my god! And he was brand new to the family. Oh, we were all like, Michael. It did look like it was one of those cute ones that looked right. Like mine clearly looks like it.
Like a metal. Oh my god.
And sorry, side note. This is
So
why
and
I'm
it's just like plastic and water everywhere.
Oh, the smell.
You just want your tea.
The smell of melting plastic.
Can you imagine?
So bad.
Anyways, back
Sorry,
to Ashley's
back to
bath.
bath time.
Okay, here's Ashley's tips for the best bath.
Yes, please.
me.
That's what we need, actually.
You need to sit in the tub while you're running the bath. Of
course.
Because
Okay.
that gives you optimal hot water.
Can't say I've
Well,
ever
and
done
that
that.
sensation, I feel the sensation of like your top is cold, it's getting warm, plus I like the sound.
Yeah. And
That's
the
that
feeling.
ASMR situation.
But
That we learned about
like
today.
if I get in a bathtub that's already ran, it's like it's so hot.
That's true.
And then I have to add cold water,
Yes.
and then I sit down. I'm like, wait, now I need to add hot water. So if you sit in it while it's running, you can get it. Like you start and you're like, okay, this is warm, and then it's like no, and then now you can crank that heat up because your body is like
Then you don't
Ready.
need the kettle. Folks.
yeah.
Plus when
It's
the
like
water's
cooking
going on your
frogs.
feet, right? It's an experience.
It's so good.
Guys, I've been doing baths wrong my whole life.
Yeah.
I have never thought to run the bath and get in. Like I'm like
Yeah.
in it
That's
while
so
it runs.
smart because you don't have that reaction to the temperature then.
And your body like adjusts.
How are you two bathing? Is my they're like
filled the
heating up the
kettle.
buckets and filling the bucket up.
I'm
in like the hauling it from the river.
Wash basin in the kitchen.
Got one of those like with the
There's not enough water for one of us tonight.
I get to bath first.
Andrew, get out.
A limit. You have your limit to the hot water.
Oh my god! So I keep
Stoking the
Oh my
fire to
God.
boil the
Okay,
water.
that was a great tip.
I'm obsessed with that.
I'm like, what's
do it.
next?
What's
Well,
next?
So we get in.
Then we
turn
get
the water on.
Then you sit for 45 minutes and,
Do you read?
Bubble bath?
Are you thinking?
So
Are
I
you
used to
listening,
read like
scrolling?
prior. Well, I shouldn't say I used to read. I think I've read like 3 books in my whole life. I hate reading,
Fair enough.
but I went through like a good series on like an iPad.
50 Shades.
No,
That's fire baths are 45 minutes.
50 Shades is like too
Tame?
like mellow.
You know what? Actually, Kate.
I just found it like boring.
Someone I know read it, and they're an English major, and they struggled with the grammar.
Yeah.
Because the grammar was bad.
Yeah, it was.
And she was like, I can't even read this because the grammar, it's like the editor or whatever happened. Like, it wasn't good.
To be honest, I've never read it or seen the movie.
I was just gonna say, like, let me
haven't
clarify.
either.
Like, I don't have a is it Red Room or like a whatever a gray room?
But
Like,
have
I
you
don't
seen
have
the
that.
Netflix series?
No.
Oh, How to Build a Sex Room?
Yes.
It's so good, actually.
No,
Is it?
My sister was like,
Is it like a reality?
It's really tame, she said, for the most part.
Yeah, they're not building like sex dungeons. Well, sometimes they are, but like it's very like sometimes they renovate a couple's bedroom and make it like a sexy spa hotel vibe, and like it's like a place for them to connect. It totally depends on the couple and what
I
they're
read the
into
title
and what they
and
want.
I was like, oh
no, it's actually so good.
Okay, so my sister told me, she's like, what I found really interesting was like the couples who were like, we have kids and we like need a space that we
Yes.
can like have as our own, and our
Yep.
kids like don't go in. And it's like, there's the odd time she said someone does something kind of kinky, but for the most part, it's actually really like cute and romantic what they're doing.
Probably helpful,
cute.
actually.
Yes.
Well, and like have your kinks. Go. You do you.
What would be in your private room? Ooh. Oh, maybe I should have gone
Maybe
here.
we shouldn't talk about
I
it.
don't know. Jason.
Aw, how nice.
photos of
Okay, sorry, I went there. Anyways.
No, I am an open book. Like, there is nothing.
She's an open book, but she doesn't read them, guys.
It's true. It just sits open.
That's it. The
Just don't close the book. The book is
love
always
it.
open.
Okay, so sorry. Okay, you said you do bubble baths.
Yeah.
What other things are you like, this is my self-care?
Being active.
Yep.
So sports
Yep.
are huge for me.
Yep.
I still play ball. I play in a volleyball league. I golf. Yeah. So sports are big. And then just at the home gym that we have, which I haven't been in, and I know because, again, I'm in like
This
a mental
week.
health funk, right? Like
Okay.
a brain funk that I'm like, I want to kill everyone.
We
But
also
not
just
really.
had a super full moon.
Slowly backing away.
And we're all exiting the podcast.
So I think those are my
That's over.
biggest self-care things. And then honestly, like friends and family are huge for me. I'm big on like just like hanging out with girlfriends,
Connection.
talking, visiting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have one more question for you, and it's probably going to go on a tangent, but we'll see. My question is about, obviously, you've already brought it up, mental health. How do you feel like social media has affected your mental health?
Oh, honestly, I think it's been good for my mental health simply because of my awareness of like who I'm following, being really picky about what's coming up on my feed, blocking
What
and
you're
getting
feeding
rid of.
yourself.
Yeah. So in that sense, I think it's really good. I think finding the balance is sometimes difficult with my social media and like family and what's important, what's not. Sometimes I get like sucked in. So I have to really pay attention to if I'm using social media for an escape, that I don't want to do something or I am overwhelmed. So if I just sit and scroll, then I don't have to worry about anything else. So in that sense, it's bad.
Yeah.
But on the other side of it, it's great. It literally like it feeds my soul when I have
love
like
that
the
'cause-
connection and the community.
I was going to say, I felt like asking that question, I was going to be like, okay, she's going to say, oh, it's so bad for my, like I thought that's the answer we were going to get. And so I love that you went a totally different direction. And you are the person who I think, as we've discussed throughout this episode, always sees two sides. And so you're like, I can recognize it's good. I can recognize sometimes it's bad. And you got to like find the way to make it good for you.
It's that self-awareness that sometimes in the world of social media we can lose our self-awareness and just get sucked in and distracted or use it as an escape or comparison and that kind of stuff. But being able to stand in your self-awareness, like what a powerful tool you have. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I feel like to wrap up, we like to ask our guests to leave us with something. And so I want to ask you, and you're
Like my bra?
I realized the way I worded that and the way you were looking at me was like, what am I going to have to strip down?
Ashley starts ripping
This is
out her
a
hair.
strip podcast.
It's like strip poker, but
Use an article of clothing.
I've got some thigh savers on.
Shout out Nick's.
Shout out.
sponsor us next.
Please. No, we'd love to know, like, what is something that Ashley's loving right now? And it could literally be like a book. It could be, you know, like
Well,
in the
it's not
summer,
a book.
a drink. Yeah, not a
Anything.
book. It's definitely not a
Oh
book.
my gosh.
A
What am I
color, a
loving right now?
product, you know, something that you're super obsessed with and just,
Brings you joy.
yeah.
Whole, like that is, guys, I know, because this is new for me. And I've been sharing all about it, but taking on a new project that is something that you didn't think that you could do, or something that you see other people do.
Yeah.
I have renovated 98% of our kitchen
That's amazing.
on my own.
Amazing.
Every time I watch you, I'm like,
Jason will be like
There's no
the
way I
first to say, like, he said to like his coworkers, like he's like showed pictures. He's like, I haven't done any of this. And so, I mean, he helped tear up the floor and like do that. But when it comes to the design of our kitchen, the building of the cabinets, the installation of the cabinets, the installation of the doors, the hardware, all of it, I've done all of that
incredible.
myself.
Amazing.
And I had no idea that I could do that.
But to be fair, this is going to tie back to the very beginning. You decided you were going to start sewing bibs without ever knowing how to sew anything.
love it.
And you were like, I think that's just like such a quality in you. You're like, I could do that. Let's do it.
But I truly think that anyone can.
Yes.
And so people have messaged me through this like home reno and been like, you've inspired me to try this or to think of that. And I truly think, like, if you've wanted to do something and you are telling yourself like, no, I can't do that, or I'll never do that how Erica does it, or I would never be able to do that. Like Megan's so good at it, right?
Yep.
Do it. Just
it.
do it. Just try it.
We'd love for you to leave us with where people can find you and what social accounts you're on.
So you can find me on Instagram at the Ashlee Piper, but it's ASHLEE Piper. I've dealt with people spelling my name wrong
Your
my
whole
whole life, including family. So I always clarify that. I mean, I'm on a couple of other platforms, but I don't find them important. So my good stuff is
Your
Instagram.
good quality stuff is
Yes, love that.
Instagram.
Love that.
Awesome. Well, thank
Yeah.
you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Go follow Ashlee, guys.
yeah,
Yes.
we love her.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of the Her Podcast. If you want to follow along with us, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at its.her.podcast. We can't wait to see you there.
Bye.
Adios.
Want to have your business featured on the Her Podcast? Simply send us a DM or an email to itsherpod@gmail.com.